Our next speaker is Evelina Ozola. She's a Latvian architect, urbanist, and writer. In her new role as Riga city chief designer, she is working together with politicians and design professionals to update policies and create new tools for public space development and management. In 2018, Evelina co-curated Together and Apart, the Latvian pavilion at the Venice Architecture Biennale. She has worked as an architect and urban designer at Made Architecti in Riga and Svesmi in Rotterdam, and co-founded the tactical urbanist collective Fine Young Urbanist that has come up with attractive and thought-provoking methods of prototyping street space and involving the society in the design process. Next to design work, Evelina regularly contributes to online and printed publications, and since 2013 she oversees Fold, an online magazine for creative industries in Latvia. Evelina is passionate about communicating urban design issues and ideas to the broader public. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, I really wanted to thank the organizing team and everyone in the jury for the very friendly and honest atmosphere in this event. It has been a pleasure watching all the presentations. They have been so sincere and really nice self-reflection. So I decided to follow the same approach and to look back at my professional years. I always find it quite difficult to explain what I'm doing because I'm usually doing several things at the same time. And even if I have tried to focus on something, a single job at the same time, then life has usually played some sort of trick on me and thrown, again, new things at me. So sometimes, quite often, it's not a choice to be a multitasker. But I've learned to do that, and I think I've become quite good at that. And I'm definitely not specialized in anything, so I don't go very deep into learning a specific side of the profession. I kind of tend to explore things horizontally and to grasp a little bit of everything. Now here, this is probably the last building that I designed, I think, at least the last public building. So this was quite a long time ago in 2008, before the financial crisis. A school building in Saldus in Latvia with the Made architects, where I started working after my studies. And it was a wonderful experience, a very good building still, sustainably built. I think this is where also my kind of love affair with bright colors started. But here, I think what was not so fortunate about it was that we won the competition, we designed the building, finished the project, and then the financial crisis hit, the project was put on hold, and we were out of jobs. I found an escape by going to study urbanism in the Netherlands. At this point, I was already quite interested in a bigger scale, and this was a very good thing to do at the moment, as there was just nothing much to do for a young architect. Ever since finishing my studies, I had already started writing for various media in Latvia, so both for professional publications and for other magazines and newspapers, some books as well. So it was really nice that sometimes I could kind of rely on my design work, and at certain moments when needed, then I could do more of the writing. And it kind of saved me in some moments. So after my studies in the Netherlands, I was, again, it was a difficult moment to find work. Obviously, I wanted to work in urbanism, and it was very hard in the Netherlands at the moment. In Latvia, it was just something so new, but there was no demand for it, and I had to kind of create it myself. So there I turned to writing. And I founded this platform for creative industries. It's an online magazine. It's still going on today. So I became an editor. So this was a platform that was funded by the Ministry of Culture. I think one of the kind of very rare and progressive moves by the Ministry of Culture, that they decided we have to create an online presence for our creative industries. And they were very open to give us the freedom. There was a competition. I entered. I won it with my vision for what this publication should be. And here we publish alongside architecture, design, fashion, music, advertising, illustration, all kinds of things mixed together so that creative disciplines get to see one another a little bit. And it's in both Latvian and English, so if you're interested in what's going on in Latvian creative industries, you can go online and follow us. Then another thing that I did together with a good friend and colleague of mine, Tom Cockins, we founded a very small collective. We called ourselves Fine Young Urbanists as a joke. Obviously, we have to dissolve it this year because we're both turning 40 quite soon, so definitely gonna call ourselves this anymore. We were kind of exotic animals in Latvia at that moment. It was difficult to explain what urbanism is, but people were definitely interested. Yet there was no real work available. So we kind of started doing small provocations. And at this moment, Riga was also the capital of culture. So a lot of possibilities kind of opened up. Funding became available. I know that Timișoara is also getting this opportunity soon. So watch out for all kinds of possible openings. So we got an opportunity to build an installation on the street to communicate ideas about how streets could be designed differently. Perhaps there should be spaces not only for cars but also for pedestrians and cyclists. And we did it quite loudly with the very bright blue installation. I think the blue also comes from the school that I showed previously. We built it ourselves with a bunch of friends and just 2 professionals in the team. I think it took about 3 days to build, and then it stayed there for a week. And it was just a great tool for testing ideas, like understanding how big certain lines are that we draw on paper, and also a great tool for communicating. So obviously it draw a lot of attention from passers-by, and we were constantly there talking to people, explaining how streets can be designed and finding out their wishes and needs. So overall, a wonderful experience. Strangely enough, it was not really kind of recognized locally. We got quite a lot of attention abroad, and coincidentally, I think the only magazine that this has been on the cover of is the Zeppelin magazine in Romania. Just remember that we have some sort of connection there. We also got nominated for a European prize for public spaces. But locally still it was just a kind of a weird installation built, and urbanism was not getting much traction yet. Then in the meantime, I also tried teaching, both like a real lecture at various universities, but also by we tried organizing our own course in architecture, quite similar to what Andres just showed about an hour ago in his presentation. So we also had our own summer school for young architects and designers and urbanists. So slightly older people than what Andres was working with. But the idea was very similar. So within 2 weeks, we would come together, all of these people from different countries, in a small town in Latvia. The town was very welcoming. They helped us a lot. And so we went through in those 2 weeks through the full project, from researching the place, understanding the issues, making the first sketches, making models, making the project, testing it on a scale 1-to-1, and then building it themselves with their own hands. So I think it was a wonderful experience for everyone involved to understand again how what's the weight of a line that you draw in AutoCAD, how to deal with all the issues that come up when building and public spaces, how to communicate with people that are interested in your project, how to make sure that it is safe for people using it, and all the other aspects of building in public domain. So the project varied in size. Some were built objects. There were also events organized. There were publications made. This one, for instance, it was a dinner organized for the whole town of Cesis. Several hundred people came. The mayor was there making the soup, cutting the first vegetables, and everyone had a really good time, and it was lovely, I think, for everyone involved. And some of the installations, even though they were all meant to be temporary, they stayed there for quite a bit, and I think this one, the tower of, it's a book exchange point for locals. It's still there. The roof is made out of folded Tetra Pak, and it turns out to be a very durable material. Then I also tried being a curator and a designer of an exhibition. This was the Latvian Pavilion in the 2018 Venice Biennale, called Together and Apart. It was a research of housing, mainly apartment buildings, because we stumbled upon the quite interesting fact that Latvia is the one nation in Europe that has the highest percentage of people living in apartment buildings. So around 66%. Especially large-scale apartment buildings, and we were interested in explaining how this came to be, looking into the history, what it meant, how it shaped society, and how it can be transformed into something better. The whole thing was very detailed. It had a lot of information, and I think we did it not so much for Venice, but for ourselves, for improving the actual housing policy in Latvia. We divided the exhibition in 4 parts. There was a topic about self, so transforming the apartment buildings, the little transformations that people do and how they result in a large-scale kind of carving away of the old structures. Then about adjusting apartment buildings for the needs of senior citizens. Then this one was about warmth, heat losses in buildings. I was quite excited by this one, to have a model that is also kind of alive at the same time. So it was emitting smoke, showing how much warmth we're losing through badly insulated Soviet-era buildings. And then several other topics were explored. We also had a catalog put together, of course, with a series of photographs and drawings and all sorts of analysis. And then later on, we repeated the exhibition in Riga. And this time, we finally managed to get rid of all the excess information to keep a moderate amount of information in the exhibition itself, and to put all of the research into the book. So 2 books came out of this project, and in the end, actually some things have been taken and actually put in the housing policies of Riga City and the national housing policy as well. So we're keeping an eye on that and following closely to make sure that things are actually, that there's a real kind of outcome, a real benefit out of this theoretical research. And now in 2019, finally, after almost, I think, 10 years after I graduated from Delft, there was finally a competition for a public square in Riga, for the redesign of a square that is surrounding a theater, which is one of our most significant modernist-era buildings, heritage building, and obviously the square is in a very bad condition. We entered the competition together with my old office. I had an opportunity to apply my urbanist knowledge, and we won the competition. And I thought, finally, my career is beginning. We're doing something real. I get an opportunity to design a real public space. Very exciting. This was the plan for the competition. Has changed a bit since then. It was a really lovely project because the brief was really open, and we got to try strategies for sustainable rainwater management, and there was a graphic design part as well. So an overall really exciting and nice project. We had a multidisciplinary team. We had one, and then it just stopped. And we were constantly being promised that the contract is about to be signed. We are going to be ready to begin the work, and they were just kind of holding us and promising every 2 weeks that it's about to begin. Just be ready. Don't take anything else, and this is about to begin. And that went on for 9 months. And obviously, we had to earn money in some other way. So at that point, it was. I'll be honest, it was quite depressing. I felt really bad at this point, and I had to switch to other jobs. And as soon as I had taken on other responsibilities, of course, the project started going ahead. At this point, I thought this is really unfair, like how life works out. So I was not able to properly take part in the project. It's under construction now, soon to be finished. I'm very excited about my colleagues. They've done an excellent job. It's going to be a great public space, but without me taking part in the designing. But this experience, it made me think about how the city actually acts as a client. I think it was a really bad client, and so when I heard the rumors that there's going to be a position of a chief city designer, I was not really sure at first that I'd be interested, but it got me thinking about what would be my motivation to apply, what I would like to improve in how the city approaches projects like this one. So I thought what is really necessary is the city to act as a very interested, educated, and demanding client. All our experiences dealing with the city at this point were very negative. They were only interested in how to do things faster, cheaper, and not a single time there was any questions about the solutions of the project, what sort of materials have we chosen, about the users, what sort of organization of the square, greenery, nothing. It was only about deadlines and how to ways how to do this quicker, easier, and without much hassle. So it was clear to me that the city needs to really work on the way it commissions designs. It was also important that not only the outcome is beautiful and works well, but that the design process also has to be done correctly. So it has to follow certain logical steps. The methodology has to be correct. Obviously, we want something that is public spaces to be inclusive, sustainable, and beautiful, as the new European Bauhaus teaches us. So this was. I also viewed the position of the chief city designer as someone who has good tastes and has the possibility to say, like, no, this is ugly. We're not going to do this. This doesn't fit Riga. And then also with my kind of personal struggle, I've always been trying to understand if I'm more a creative or a rational personality, and it became increasingly clear that I'm not so talented in being a very creative architect and designer, that I am very organized. I have a very strong rational thinking, and I really love building and using systems. This is good. I'm suitable for the work. So I applied and I got it. And then again, life played a trick on me, and just after 3 months of being the chief city designer, I was made the chief city architect as well. So I'm doing both, sitting on both chairs at the moment. It is really difficult. It's a lot of work. Both are very demanding positions. So complicated life. About the city architect's service, as it's called. We're a very small office. It was previously an independent agency. And for the last 10 years, being an independent agency that has all the freedom of commissioning all the works that it wants and doesn't have to be it's not monitored as strictly as all the city departments. It really didn't take advantage of that, and it was quite, it was leading a very quiet life, not being very vocal, not standing up for the interests of architects or designers or public spaces. It was doing a lot of interesting research, but not applying it in any way. So everyone got mad at them and included them in the city development department now, which is obviously we're more controlled, but it also has advantages that we're closer to those who make decisions about certain projects. We see the project flow much clearer, much more involved in making important decisions for the city. The structure is as it shows in the diagram. So we have our boss, the chief architect, then also the chief designer and the chief landscape architect. Those were the two introduced at the same time, only at the beginning of this year. So completely new positions in the city. And then each one of those has their own little, the right hand. So a landscape architect, designer, and an architect and urbanist who are not chiefs but are pulling a lot of weight. Then there's the administration deputy, and then we also have our projects that go beyond the everyday work. So we would have 2 project managers. Rather small team. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 people. Seems nice. Probably not enough people, but it's fine. Now this is the reality. the positions that are filled at the moment. We actually only have 3 people. With the chief landscape architect, we had some trouble, so they're leaving their position. The chief architect, the previous one left the end of May. Now I'm substituting. We haven't found a new one. No one is really interested in doing this work. And then we don't have the positions of one project manager and designer yet. So yeah, it's quite difficult at the moment, but it's gonna get better soon. But I think we're managing and we're doing pretty well for a 3-person team. Now, what is it that we actually do? The main task, most of our everyday work is made out of monitoring existing projects. We don't have to look at them from the perspective of regulation so much. It's about the quality of space. So we're relying on kind of internationally known goods practice, documents that are internationally approved and accepted, and our good reason and taste. This is done through constantly giving opinions about projects, so we get to look at a lot of real projects that go through the city for getting approval. Especially we look at those that are important on an urban scale or some sort of have a very specific large public function. This also very often means that we have to stop a lot of projects. So it's not only about improving and giving the green light, but it's also about stopping certain things from appearing in the public domain. Then a lot of our focus has shifted towards public space. So it's not even though it's the architect's service, the focus actually right now is public space. This is something that the residents of Riga are demanding, and I think this is really the moment when professionals have also understood the value of public space. So it's not just architecture, but also the space surrounding architecture. Here we organize competitions, and we do our small temporary projects, which I'll show a little bit of later. Governance of public space is something that hasn't existed in Riga until now. So there's no kind of clear system how projects flow should go through different agencies and services. And we also have to develop guidelines for public space and the furniture that is placed there. Also, I will touch on this a bit later, but it was a surprise to me that there's nothing like that has existed until now. So I wonder how the city actually held together. And we're also involved in the development of planning documents, all kinds of regulatory acts. So a lot of adjustments have to be made so that infrastructure does not always override trees and greenery, and certain outdated norms have to be improved. And finally, we also have an educational function, and next year we're starting an educational program for around the city department, so also civil servants and also professionals, because we've realized the architectural education in Latvia doesn't cover a lot of contemporary topics, and we need educated clients and spatial discipline professionals to work better. This is about public space governance model. This is a very simplified idea of that. So this is the whole process from the initiation of projects. Ideas can come from anywhere, from the planning documents, from residents, from politicians, anyone, investors, and they all have to kind of go through filters, so through several filters, and then they have different speeds. And so in reality, this diagram is a lot more complicated. So this is like a really concentrated version of it. But for each of those interested parties, we have to create a roadmap so that they understand how things are done, how they can get from idea to implementation. And in each of those steps, all the little circles are different agencies of the city, and they all have their little responsibilities. And again, for each one of those, there's a little roadmap how they should act. I think we're going to hopefully manage to get through this year and present to the city an improved model, and then with all of these little roadmaps for individual agencies, how they should act. And also a lot of the responsibilities are going to be shifted around. And what's nice about it, obviously, is that it never ends, because you go from implementation to designing, and then approval, maintenance, and then things get old again, and then they return to the beginning. We have to start renovating public spaces again. This is kind of more of a spatial illustration of that diagram. So again, with all the little bubbles that are different agencies that have divided the public space geographically and by other criteria, and it's really difficult to actually figure out if a bench belongs to the traffic department, or the environment and housing department, or the maintenance department of the area, or Riga City and Parks, or somebody else. So the city itself doesn't know, and we have to solve this puzzle somehow. The goal obviously is to have simpler procedures and to save money, and so that everything is managed in a more reasonable manner. The other things that we're busy with at the moment is to create public space guidelines. A lot of cities have them. So these are some of the examples, like Oslo, for example, has a street design manual. Amsterdam has had it for a very long time. It has even divided theirs into green and red spaces. So it has a lot of standard situations prescribed, and street profiles and all the little elements that go there. And this is the goal of it is mainly to organize different flows logically, so that people have their spaces and cyclists have their spaces, and cars have enough space for their movement. These are all. This is all about standardizing, and honestly, this is what I think the city really needs. It's a lot of very normal, basic standards, instead of trying to solve in every situation everything every time anew, and creating a lot of unique solutions that really don't fit together that well and demand a lot of design time, money, and then difficult maintenance. So yeah, that's the goal, and this is what we have already done. This year we managed to collect all of the previous studies and to go through them and to see what we already can start from, set the format and the style for the guidelines. Strangely, it has come before. There are some reasons for that. I will not go into detail, but yeah, we already have a graphic design standard, but we don't have the content for the book. And then we've just started the procurement for the street typology chapter of the guidelines. So with the team of 3 people, obviously we cannot do everything ourselves. We have to outsource a lot of work. And then we're going to go chapter by chapter, and then we are going to be our office is going to put everything together so that we have a comprehensive guidebook. And the other part is the urban furniture catalog, which is very much needed, so that all the little elements are chosen so that they're good, they serve their users, they're high quality, and they all look nice together, and they're not, that every bench does not look different in the city. So again, to set a very good basic standard. Now here, this is not ours, this is from Helsinki. They have a very nicely organized catalog for the city. It's available as a website, so no more heavy regulations and PDF documents that get sent around and always expire. It has to go online, it has to be constantly updated, it has to be easy to use. And here we have managed to do all the market research. So we've gone through like 100 producers of street furniture to figure out what they can offer. Chosen the elements that would be most suitable for Riga, according to various criteria. We have zoned the city in several parts according to its history, the style of buildings, the users right now, and other aspects. And also defined which areas can have typical solutions and which areas are exceptional and do actually require unique design. We have a prototype of the website in progress. We have completed technical descriptions of all of the elements, and the first procurements are already being tested. So we'll see what the results bring. So this is all moving towards more unified design in the city. And then finally, I'm going back to pictures. So a lot of my work is now text documents, and I know it's not great for presentations, but yeah, we also do some work that can be photographed. And so these are the temporary improvements of public spaces. I have to say I was very much against these projects in the beginning. I thought as a proper urban designer, this is not how things should be done. You have to have a project, and it has to be done nicely, and everything has to be done right, with all the gutters in place and the surfaces done right and lighting and everything. But we realized quickly that it just takes too much time and it's just not possible, and people need to sit down somewhere now. So what we've done is we've gone through the inventory of the different public agencies that have some sort of stock of urban design elements, and we just made small, very quick projects for several places in the city, and we just placed them there to have some sort of temporary urban little green spaces for people to use. This is done in the summer. So in the beginning it was a summer project that was taken away in the fall, which was very strange to me, that as if people didn't need to sit down as colder weather approaches. But now this is just placed there, and we'll stay there also in the fall and in the winter until a more permanent solution is made. This is also a chance for me to keep that hands-on approach, to keep some sanity in the work as well. So I was there for every of these little setups. It's done very early in the morning, but it's also a lot of fun to see and to meet and to work with the people who take care of our parks or squares. They have a lot of experience. They have their very practical knowledge of things, and so we used a lot of plants, planting boxes and benches and garbage bins, just very simple things to create temporary spaces for people to feel more welcome in their own city. yeah, so there are several squares done and on the streets as well. The greenery helps a whole lot. It grows fast. It looks nice. It makes everything look nice, even though we know that the containers are not perfect. The benches are not so great, but people are happy to sit down and just to have a meal in kind of reasonably well done conditions. And it's already a small improvement that can be done fast. Yeah, so from switching from the chief city designer's work to, as I said in the beginning, I cannot keep still and I have to do several things at the same time. So I'm also designing and curating an exhibition for this guy, German Cermic. He's a Latvian designer based in Amsterdam. He's doing very well. He's a very talented guy. He does furniture design. Maybe you've seen this chair somewhere. He's developed his own method of doing these gradients on glass and other materials. This is his tribute to Kuramata chair. So this is going to be his first solo exhibition back home. And yeah, we've been slowly working from the beginning of this year. So next year in January, we're opening an exhibition. Yeah, this is kind of one of his installations. The exhibition is going to be done in a similar fashion. And it's not just glass. He works with other materials and objects as well. So I find this very, very interesting. He's developed an interesting method of working with the surface of natural stone. So instead of making it very perfect, as we're used to seeing in architecture and design, he's highlighting the natural texture and working with rugs as well and other elements. So yeah, this is, again, life has played another trick. So I got offered the position of the chief designer and this exhibition at the same day. And obviously I couldn't make up my mind, so I took both. And now I'm going slightly crazy with the amount of work. But well, after this is done in next January, then definitely just one thing will be my focus. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Evelina. If you have any questions or curiosities about her work.
I have one. Congratulations and thank you for your inspiring talk. It is fantastic, all the work that you are doing. I was wondering if, I do understand all the struggles in the city, working in the administration, and I'm wondering if you have support or from outsiders, from outside organization, maybe from the professional organization of architects or urbanists, or maybe from the faculty of architecture. If you can find people from the outside that can help you with research or something.
Yeah, good question. I'd say that the support comes from sort of unexpected sides, actually. I would have expected the professional organizations and our educational organizations to be more helpful in many ways, but actually the demand for public space design and good architecture and all the things that come with it mainly comes from our politicians and the city council and the organizations of various neighborhoods. And I have to say they have very quickly become very well educated in these subjects. And they're putting a lot of pressure on developers and also professionals who are designing public space and architecture. And they are really our biggest helpers, I have to say, in organizing various resources and just being present and asking the right questions at the right time. So yeah, I'd say at the moment I find it a very it's a great moment to be working at the municipality, because the city council has a lot of interest and shows a lot of support in improving public space.
I have a question connected to hers. How did you manage to educate them? Or you didn't have a direct impact, but I find it very interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think maybe I had a little bit to do with that, but really it's not like I cannot say that this is there's been a lot of my input in that. I think we managed with some of my fellow urbanists and architects to make the topic interesting. But then people decided they found their own information and they educated themselves. Like we didn't actually have to do so much. And now the interesting thing is that everybody wants to be an urbanist all of a sudden. So previously we were just like there were 2 or 3 of us, and now there's a lot more. Quite often they are self-taught, but it really helps us. It doesn't really matter that much. Sometimes the situations are not like, ideal, but it really helps that there is demand for good public spaces.
How is the relationship with, for example, with private developers in terms of you can like set up some conditions that may change their own like economic surveillance or expectations? Does do they take it in a positive way, or there's a struggle sometimes?
I'd say that is also a pretty good relationship. There are struggles mostly regarding car parking. That is a hot topic. That's where we argue a lot, and we have to convince them. And I have to say they're quite often the architects that they choose to work with. They are. They pay lip service to all the sustainability issues, and they always complain that the city is not doing more, but then they themselves are like without a second thought designing enormous parking spaces and saying things like, but no one goes to a supermarket with a bicycle. Quite often we're fighting against kind of our own kin. So that's why I think we need the educational program to kind of show certain things can be done differently. But a lot of the developers have very good intentions actually, and they just sometimes need some guidance or advice. And here our guidelines and the catalog would really be helpful, because they're not going to be city regulations. So you don't have to take it as some sort of a law. It's really a handbook for the designer to be. We have done their job for them. They don't have to go through like 100 of companies that produce things, because we have pre-selected things for them. And so far there's a lot of actually demand already, a lot of requests for consultations and just help and advice, and it seems to be working out quite well. So say no one has like really bad intentions. Everyone is just looking for competence. Oh, there's more.
Sorry. But besides the guidelines, the guidebooks, how do you plan in doing the teaching part of what is good quality spaces, what is quality architecture? And you have to teach the smog Bogdan was talking about. So
yeah, well, by good examples, and there I hope to collaborate with to use those parts of my experience, like the writing experience, the kind of curating experience, the good contacts that I have with the media and the professional organizations, to focus certain things, like to, for instance, we're planning to do an evaluation in new projects on specific topics like sustainability and accessibility. So it's not perhaps not giving like an overall award in architecture for just great architecture, but highlighting those projects that have very seriously taken like universal design or certain sustainability aspects, and to be kind of more focused and show good examples. That's part of our arsenal of weapons.
One more question.
Only a short question. Did the city become a better client?
Yeah, I am the client now. I'm trying to be, and I guess when I started doing this, I didn't realize how difficult it is going to be, because the city obviously follows the rules of public procurement, and the lawyers working for the city are quite stubborn. So it's a struggle to convince them that the lowest price is something that we can actually use very rarely, that we need other criteria to evaluate things on. But a lot can be done already by making better briefs, to spending more time working with the designers who have won competitions and procurements. But yeah, at the moment I am the only designer working for the municipality. We definitely need more. The good thing is that young professionals with interesting educations, like that they're, I don't know, like specialized in sustainable mobility or things like that, that they are beginning to go to work for the municipality, which is very important. Like staying on the other side and just being angry all the time, it doesn't help at all. You have to go and give up and become a civil servant, and that is the only way how you can actually change the briefs and the rules of those procurements. Okay, I think it's enough questions.
Yeah, thank you.